Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. I've had nearly 3 weeks of lockdown. Andrew goes off to work to do his marvellous job at the NHS, and that leaves me at home, and I have done DIY, housework, baking. Trouble is with baking is I enjoy it, but then the cake for the afternoon is every 5 minutes. So I'm a creative person, as you know, with interiors and flowers, and I just wanted to do something that interests me in a really selfish kind of way. I'm watching too much news, I'm hearing too much virus talk. I cannot hear the word ramp it up or unprecedented anymore, or furloughed for that matter. So I want to talk flowers and be creative. So I thought from home, I'll do some projects that people can also have a go at home. You can have a go at if you want. And if the results are good, then that's good. If they're not, and you've just enjoyed the half-hour to hour session of creating something and it's taken your mind off it like it will mine, then it can only be for the good. So, with Easter this weekend, I thought I would do kind of an Easter ring, Easter wreath. That could be hung on a door, put on a table, and just be something easy to make. I've tried to use materials that most of us have at home. I'm lucky to have a garden, and so I've got leaves and foliage that I've foraged from my garden to create this. You could use artificial flowers if you've got artificial flowers, or if you're going on a walk, you could grab a bit of foliage and collect some stuff together. So I've tried to keep the materials quite basic. I've got some scissors. I've got some little clippers or little pliers. Have a coat hanger. And then my foliage that I'm using, I've got some skimmia, which I love. I love this kind of bulbous flower head on it with these lovely little white petals. This has got nice deep green lush leaves. But I've also got a variegated leaf skimmia, just to give a little bit of interest in the leaf and a smaller flower head. I'm using some pittosporum. This I love because of the glossy leaf, and also I love the interest that's created by the black stem. I've got some bay leaves that I've just cut off my trees. Tended to cut some off the back of the trees so that it's not evident where I've clipped them from. But again, lovely leaf shape, and these little berries create interest. And I've also grabbed some ivy that actually comes over my fence from the next door neighbours. So when I trim it back, I save it. And what I love about that is it's just got this lovely lush big leaf. And the reason I'm using a variety of leaves is because it then leads your eye to a variety of shape. So when you've got the ivy, for instance, and then some bay leaf, and some skimmia, and then some pittosporum, just collecting it together in your hand, you can see the different shapes and forms you've got, different colours, greenery, this lovely little petal here. Even that itself, just gathered in your hand, creates a lovely shape. So I'm going to be working with all of those. And then to add a little bit of final detail, I'm using a bit of artificial. Obviously, flower supplies are really non-existent. So this is what I already had in my little creative shed. Collectively, as a posy is a bit naff, but pulled off and used individually, they are quite realistic, and it's just a great way of adding a little bit of colour. And I thought yellow and rust was quite nice for this time of year. I'm also going to be adding a little bit of artificial blossom, which again, I mean, the great thing about artificial flowers is you've always got them at hand. They're everlasting, and also it's a great way of using flowers that are in season now. Because what happens if you use Easter type flowers, spring type flowers, artificial, they'll appear to your mind that they're even more realistic because they would be in season now, they're obtainable now, fresh. So those are my artificial supplies. I'm also going to use some ribbon. I happen to have this green dotted one in my shed, so I'm using that. And then I'm using some green tape, flower tape. You could order this online or use sellotape. And I'm using my trusted old friend, a glue gun. These are brilliant because they fix really well, very easy to use, apart from a few little blistered fingers. But I use it quite a lot with my craft. So, let's begin. Coat hanger, a metal coat hanger, which you just slightly manipulate into a rough circular shape. You don't have to be too precise with this. All we want to do is lose the coat hanger shape and kind of make it into a ring, because this is going to be the spine of the wreath that we're making, the Easter wreath we're making. And what's great about these is everyone should have a metal coat hanger at home, so you can go and get one out of your wardrobe. If you're using this with the kids, just be careful of bending it. They might need a parent just to help them. But what's great about this is you've then got the hook on the top, which you can use to hook onto a ledge, hook onto the door to actually hang. So you've already got your hanging, and that's the whole spine of this arrangement. So bend that into a rough circular shape, like so. Stage one. Then what I've done is I've got some greenery out of the garden. Again, the ivy that I was saying. I've got some longer pieces, and what I've done is I've just started to fold it on from the top and weave it in and out and around like so. You'll probably notice that this greenery I've got has dried. That doesn't matter. It actually adds as a nice base if it's dried. So you could always do this the day before. So you could get your coat hanger, make into a ring, and then wrap the ivy round continually. Keep going around till you want to build up as much as you can. And all you can do to fix that in place is either use the sellotape or the green floristry tape. And again, it doesn't matter how clean you are or how tidy you are with this. It really doesn't matter, as long as you've got your circle and your shape going. You can see it forming. So what I'm going to do is just put a bit on there with a little bit of green tape. Wrap it round. These are just little pieces that I've already cut. And then take the ivy through and just keep wrapping it round. Like so. And at this moment, don't bother tying the ends. Just clip it in and just make sure that it's held like that. So I'm going to do that with a few more pieces, because what we want to do is try and disguise the white coat hanger. I mean, don't worry too much, because we're going to build layers and layers and layers on this. So stage 2 is really to get the circle so that you've got some coverage of ivy. So I'm going to carry on doing this. Where's the rest of my ivy? This piece here, for instance, if you can't get too much trailing, then just use a piece like this, cut a piece off, and then where you see a gap, just tape some on. What I try and do is go both ways, so you can twine it in one way, clockwise, and then go anti-clockwise. And what I'm going to do here is, because there's some green tape on show, is I'm going to put the bigger leaves to try and cover that tape up. So, there you can see. The other thing I'm bearing in mind is, if the hook is going to go onto the door, this is going to be the front of my wreath. So you have to keep holding it away from you and looking to make sure you're getting the shape, so that you know what is the front, because it doesn't really matter too much what's going on at the back. So I'm going to add a little bit more of the ivy. To another area where I think it needs a bit of shape and a bit of interest. I've just already pre-cut some green floral tape, so it just saves me from having to peel it off and stick it on. I mean, a lot of the flower arrangements I do and the creations I make, I sit and plan. I do a list of materials I need, stages that I'm going to do, and if you do it in stages, if the phone goes or the door goes, you can leave it and come back to it. But at least you know then you've got some kind of plan. I always say the better the preparation, the better the end result. So I'm going to add a little bit more ivy here. As I said earlier, I love baking, I love cooking, but unfortunately with that, you end up eating the results, especially when there's only me and Andrew in the house. So at least this is non-edible. So a little bit more ivy. So I've added I've added this here, I've added a bunch here, one there, and I'm going to add, as you can see, this is looking a bit weak here, so I'm going to add another piece here. I think with flowers, you have to have a confidence, and that's why a lot of clients of mine love my workshops, because it's about building up confidence and not panicking too much. If you know what the end result's got to look like, you can work on that. And if anything you stick down that you're not happy with, you can unstick it. It's not permanent. So I can see here one final bit more of the ivy. So I've added a piece here, one there, and then I'm thinking that I need a piece up here, so I'm going to add another piece there. So that is the ivy, and as you can see, it doesn't matter if this bit's hanging, if this bit's sticking out a bit. We want a wreath shape, we want a ring shape, but it doesn't matter about it being too formal. I do want it to be natural. We're using very natural products out of the garden, so I want it to have that fresh, hand-picked feel to it. So the next thing I'm going to add, because I've got these lovely big leaves of the ivy, is I'm going to add the pittosporum. I love this. I love that waxy leaf. And I love the dark stem of this one. It's got a nice black stem, so it'll add another drama against what we hang it on. So a sprig like this, I'm going to put that there. What I'm going to do is group it together so that the tape can hold them all in place, the different stems. And as I say, I'm using green florist tape, but you can use sellotape, is absolutely fine. I think in these unprecedented times, don't let me say that again, you've got to use what you can. And so if it's sellotape you've got, masking tape you've got, then use it. Right, so as you can see, this shape's working nice here, but I've got a gap here. So I'm going to add another bit of the pittosporum here. This floristry tape is brilliant if you can get some, because it's waterproof, very tactile, very stretchy, so you can really work with it. But as I say, sellotape's fine too. The other thing you could do as well is twine this on. I've got some wired string here, like this. As you can see, it's got wire through it. So you could tie it on if you wanted to. But I think the tape's really easy, really effective, and very quick to use, especially if it's your first time. So as you can see, I'm going around now, and it's a little bit thinner up here. So I want to build up there. So I'm going to add some more pittosporum up that side. Again, group together, tape on. And what I'm also doing is I'm looking for gaps, bits of the wire coat hanger that's on show, or any tape that's on show from the previous things I've stuck on. Just try and cover it up as you go along. But don't worry too much, because we are going to be adding a ribbon, we're going to be adding some flowers, so we can always disguise any areas as you go. So I've got more pittosporum there to add. So, as you can see, this is looking much fuller. So I've got a gap there where I'm going to add some. Lots of flower arrangements are about layers. So this is a really, really lovely base. And as I say, as long as you use interesting leaves of all shapes and sizes, you're onto a winner straight away. Right, so I've got a couple more pieces of pittosporum to add, which I'm going to add at the top. Some tape. To add to that. This is the first tutorial I'm doing on video. What I plan on doing, if there's much interest, is to do some classes, maybe live, so I could give you the heads up on what materials to get, and then you can send questions in as you're doing it. But if you're watching this video anyway and you've got any questions or any queries, then just drop me a message on my Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, and I'll answer them. So as you can see, I've already got an absolutely lovely ring of different kinds of foliages. The coat hanger's fast vanishing, and we've got this lovely loose hoop shape, which is going to be a really lovely base to add bows and flowers to. So that's ivy and pittosporum added. And the next thing I'm going to add is the bay leaf. This piece is a bit big, so I'm going to cut it down. And then looking at this, I have a gap here, for instance. So I'm going to tape that in that gap. Now, because it's Easter this weekend, that's why I thought I would do a bit of an Easter wreath. Put on a cupboard door, kitchen cupboard door, toilet door, your front door. This will last a few days. If you do this midweek this week, this will be absolutely fresh and lovely for Easter. Just a lovely thing to do. If you're getting married in the future, when weddings are back on, you could add lots of lovely roses and wedding flowers to this and make it really wedding-y. So I'm going to carry on adding the bay leaves. What's lovely about this on your front door is you get that lovely fresh smell of foliage. So I know there'll only be the postman coming to your front door, but at least he'll get the scent. But in more sociable times, it's really lovely for visitors to come to your door and have a lovely scent. These work really well with lavender, for instance. Adds that lovely scent, especially if you've got a porch and you put it on your inside front door. Right, so I'm adding the bay leaves, as you can see. So again, creating another shape, another leaf. So we've got the pointy leaf of the bay leaf, the pittosporum so far, and the ivy is really creating. And again, I'm keeping the hook to the back. So I know that this is the front. So I'm going to add 3 more pieces of the bay leaf that I have. Again, another nice piece here, but that will make for 2 bits to tie on. So I'm holding it back, I'm looking at where the gaps are, and then I'm adding where the gaps are, where I want to add shape. So a bit of floristry tape, I can see a gap there, so I'm adding it. I can see another gap this side with this lovely piece, so I'm going to add that to that side. It's also important that as you're working with this, you keep turning the actual structure, so your eye is wandering and inspecting the whole shape, so you're not missing a certain area. And also, if bits fall off, that gives you the perfect opportunity to retape them back on. Okay, so that is all of my foliage so far. So that is bay leaf, pittosporum, ivy, which is lovely, and as you can see, that creates a really great shape there. Again, I'm not at all worried about it not being a perfect circle. I want it to be a little bit loose and hand foraged feel, but I'm liking that. Okay, so time to add the skimmia, which, if you remember, I'd got this lovely dark green leafed white floral one, slight scent to it and gives a lovely shape. And then I've also got little bits of this variegated leaf one with a little rust pink hue, so that's going to add interest and another shape. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to look at the wreath, and just for placement, just place the flowers in, just so you get an idea when you look at it where you think that should go. The reason I'm going to put a bigger one up the top here is it's going to cover the hook at the back. So it's quite important at this stage to try and get that a little bit camouflaged. So I'm going to put that one there. as you can see. And then I have one more big one. So to balance the top and the bottom, I'm going to put one the opposite side. So I've got one at the top covering the hook, and then I'm going to do one at the bottom. And I'm laying this at the side, so it's side on. So the stem against the greenery that you've already taped on. A little bit of tape to get that secure. It doesn't matter if you break the leaves underneath whilst you're taping this on. Just make sure that they're secure. And then, now that I've got the bigger one hiding the hook and the other one here, I've then got these little ones to add, almost like a clock face really, but a very loose one. I don't want to be too formulaic with it, but I have a gap here and the tape's on show. So to cover the tape, I'm going to add those there. I'm going to add these in a pair. What's really great about floristry and creating shape, form and texture is to group things of different shapes, sizes and colours together. This will give a real natural feel by putting two together, because that's how it would grow in nature. So I've literally just cut two off separately, and then I'm going to tape them together like so. So they're taped together how they would grow in my garden. And then I'm simply going to put those both on there and then tape the whole taped structure onto the foliage. Like so. So you can see this skimmer really gives a lovely alternative shape with the leaves acting as a lovely, gorgeous background. So I've got two more left. So I'm going to add these separately so that it knocks off the balance slightly. I'm not going to put the other side exactly. I'm going to put them at sort of 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock. So, two more bits of tape. And again, I have a gap here. So I'm going to add that to the gap to cover up the where you can see where I've taped some other foliage on one of the other stages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got one more to do, and the other one is going to go here. A loose feel, a very natural feel, and you'll only get that by not being too regimented, being a bit relaxed, and also looking at how the leaves are falling that you've already secured to see what sort of shape you want. That to me is perfect, very easy to do. You've got the ivy and all the other leaves all acting as a fabulous backdrop, and then you've got these lovely blooms just here, there, just dotted, but in a very natural, informal way. Right, so now you've got that. That to me, beautiful. You can actually just have that as is, hung on the door, hung on a window, on a table is really lovely with a candle in the middle, and that works absolutely lovely. But I'm just going to add a few artificial flowers on top of that just to give it a bit of an Easter vibe. And what I'm going to do is use this absolutely wonderful this arrangement I had, this naff posy, but there are some key flowers that are absolutely, you would never know are artificial. This lovely little chrysanth head is lovely, and it's got this lovely antique-y feel to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that to the greenery. So I'm going to look at this whole circle, and where there are gaps, I'm going to add, again, not in a regimented way, but I'm going to add the artificial flowers. Under normal circumstances, and you can get fresh flowers work, tulips work beautifully in this, roses would work beautiful in this, but I'm just using everything that I've got in the garden or anything that I've got already in my little work shed, just to give a little bit of an Easter vibe. And what I'm doing is hot glue gun, glue on the back of the flower head, and then very careful not to burn your fingers, and I'm just holding it on till it dries. Give it a few seconds, and there you go. So you're getting lovely shape. You're getting the lovely broken feel of the skimmia with the variegated leaf, and then this lovely burnt, antique-y feeling artificial chrysanth. Just looks so romantic and so lovely. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to dot those around, working from the one I've just put on around, just so that there's a dotted interest throughout. So I have another one. Another one. So let's get those done for now. So I've got 3 basically of those. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to maybe put, I've got one here. So I'm going to go down there with that one and then maybe up here with this one. Again, so your eye wanders. I like 3s of things. That's from being an interior designer. Okay, so glue gun, a little blob of the hot glue on the back. And then onto the fresh leaves that you've put down and hold it on till it sets. And there you go. Oh, no, you don't. So that needs a little bit more glue. So a little bit more glue because that came off. So I'm holding that down till the glue sets. If you're at home and doing this with your children and don't want to use a glue gun, you can tape the flowers on. You can keep the stems on them and tape them on. What I like about this, though, is once you've pulled the heads off, you can get a real flat effect to the flower. But if you don't want to use a glue gun, then just with a stem, put the stems on. There you can see. So I've got one more to do. Glue gun. Glue. There you go. And then I've got one there. I have one here. So the other one is going to go over there. Hold it down till it sets. And that's the next stage. Got lovely greenery. Variegated, different leaves, different shapes. You've got different flowers. We've now added another interest with this faux chrysanthemum in this lovely antique colour. And as you can see, that in itself looks very wedding-y. Would make lovely centre tables or hanging on church pews. A coat hanger and some greenery out the garden. Okay, so being very careful that you don't move it around too much because you need the glue to set. I'm going to add some of these artificial little daisy heads. I love these. And again, you could just flower tape those or twine those on and put them on whole. But what I'm going to do is pull all the heads off. Glue the backs and dot them on. And again, like we've done with the foliage, if you use different sizes of flowers, different shapes of flowers, that again creates mega interest. It's really important with flowers to create that lovely interest with different shapes. So I'm glue gunning this flower head. Be very careful with the smaller flowers because you don't want burnt fingers. And sticking them in, as you can see. So what I'm going to do with those is count how many I've got. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I know this is a little bit more fiddly to do, but this really will make a difference because you've got the bulk of the greenery, the bigger flowers, and then little dotted flowers really will add that nature feel, and then that will make it more realistic. The more natural you make it feeling and looking, the more real it will look. I mean, the greenery helps anyway, because obviously that is all fresh. Right, so I have a gap here. So I'm adding it on here, like so. More glue. Sticking that on there. And I don't know whether you can see, but what I'm doing is I'm actually putting it against the foliage. So you can actually see it against the foliage. Mixing real foliage, no. Yeah, mixing real foliage with artificial flowers is a really good combination. I very often have in the house some artificial stems of eucalyptus that lasts forever. I mean, it looks so realistic. And if you keep that in a vase of water and then just add a bunch of lilies or fresh flowers every week, it means the greenery forever stays and you can just add some fresh flowers. I know people can tend to be snobs about artificial flowers, but when you can't get fresh, it's better to have artificial than none at all. I do say a room's not dressed without flowers. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I've seen a gap that I've left. I've just overlooked it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few flowers to it to create a little bunch here, and then that will add a lovely adjustment to where I've just speckled them around. So I know I'm struggling with the camera and I will get better at it the more that these tutorials go on, but I'm hoping this is giving you an idea, and I'm afraid I can't at this moment in time get anybody around to help me with the recording of this because I'm home alone. Okay, so I've got 2 more to add. So I'm just going to add those in the gaps and then show you what I'm doing. And this glue works perfectly. It sticks on most surfaces, so it's absolutely fine with the fresh leaves. These glue guns are amazing, save so much time. But as I say, if you don't want to use the glue gun, twine the flowers on. Take a little bit more time, but it's much more safer with the kids if you're doing this with kids. So there we are, building the shape, as you can see. Very pretty, very romantic, very natural feeling. Lots of interest with different textures, different shapes and different forms. And then what I'm going to do, just to add another Easter touch, is use my blossom. Like I said, it's so in season now, so it just makes it really relevant for the time being. So again, it'll lead the viewer's eye to be fooled that it's fresh when actually it's artificial. My neighbour has a load of this in his garden, and I hold the artificial next to the fresh, and at a glance you really can't tell the difference. But I do love a vase of fresh blossom. So what this is creating are lovely little petals of whiteness with a yellow centre, and then a little bit of the twig that sticks out. I like that because it's going to add a lovely shape amongst the foliage. So what I'm going to do with that is, again, get the glue gun, glue onto the petal of the flowers, and almost lay it on top, really, because we want these sticking out. We want this as an extra dimension sticking out of the flowers. Right. Make sure the glue doesn't go on any of the work surface. Okay. So, as you can see, we've got a bit of greenery, a bit of twig going on. So I'm going to continue adding those. Straight, lay them on, have a play around, see if you like the shape, see if you like how they're going before you glue them. But I'm quite happy with these, so these are going on as they are. That's the lovely thing about flowers, is you can just put it in front of you and have a play around. Nothing's permanent, so... and then I'm going to glue these on here. So, this glue dries invisible, so if you've got any that's on show on the leaves, it should dry clear, so you can't see it. So I've got one more piece to put on. Lovely petals, nice bit of twig shape, as you can see here. I'm going to put this at the top here. just to create a nice peak to the arrangement. Again, I don't want them fixed so that they're all regimented and in complete pattern. It's got to be a loose feeling to this. Right. So, here we go. So we've got all of that lovely shape, all of the lovely foliage. Pull some of the glue strands away. This will last certainly all over the weekend. The foliage will dry, which won't matter because it will still keep the colour. You've got some artificial flowers, so it doesn't matter that nothing will happen to those. They will be forever looking great. The skimmy is long lasting, so that will last too. And then what I'm going to do, just to add a final little bit of interest, is I'm going to do a bow at the top. So that when it's hung on the door, it's got that bow just to add an accent on the top. And I had got some of this green ribbon available, so I thought, why not? Now with a bow, you pinch, have the pattern facing out, and you pinch one loop, so you've got a train there, and then you pinch the other loop, so you've got a train there, snip, and I'm going to just snip both edges so that they're very neat. White ribbon would be nice too with this, gives a nice fresh feel, but I just thought this green dotted was just something a little bit Eastery. And so I want a bow at the top, so I'm going to pull the strings round. And then pull both edges up together and tie in a knot. I might do a double knot so that it's fixed. And then get the loop, do a normal bow as you would your shoelaces. And then what I'm trying to do is do it so that the pattern of this ribbon, because it's only one-sided, that the dots face out. You could use raffia, all sorts of it. Depends what you've got in. As I say, what I wanted to do was a project that maybe people have got a lot of the materials at home, and if not, they're easy substituted for other things. And this can work in so many different colours, different patterns for different themes, birthdays, weddings, engagements. So it's just got a little bit of a nice bow detail at the top. And there's your Easter ring, Easter wreath, Easter ring. You could add sweets to this. You could add eggs to it. You could do some eggshells, maybe. I'm going to now just take this and put it on the front door so that you can see how it's going to look. But I just think it's very effective, nice thing to do. And you know what? We've had 35 minutes of not thinking about any kind of coronavirus. There you go. Can you see? Oh, my videoing's terrible. There you go. If you didn't want it outside, could go inside. Why not? Very fortunate to have these lovely doors. And at Christmas, I like to hang things on here. So why not hook it onto here? So if you've got a ledge or a windowsill or a shelf. So there you go. I hope that's taken your mind off things. I must say, I've had 39 minutes of not thinking of a virus, not thinking of illness, not thinking of lockdown, ramping it up, unprecedented times, being furloughed, just been creative, enjoyed myself. I hope you have too. And join me again for another masterclass. Remember, randalise, don't vandalise.